and welcome back to another NewBeeCast. I'm your host, Goose, and in the studio today we have the one, the only BrainFPV. We have Jenny and Martin. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Pretty good.
Now, you guys aren't locals, right? You came down from
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
That's quite a ways.
Catching some sun.
Portlandia.
Some sun.
Oh my god, I think I'm sunburned, actually. From sitting out on the grass.
Yeah, you do look noticeably like a little darker because like yesterday it was
glowing.
like it was so.
I know, you were like blinded by
we're like
my.
comparing our arms
Yeah,
at lunch.
we were like different races.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Seriously, and we're both super white, so
yeah.
that says a lot.
I haven't seen sun in like 6 months or so.
6
so
months.
yeah,
Is that bad there?
I mean,
No. No, it's it rains a lot, but it's not bad. I enjoy it.
it's not Southern California.
It's not Southern California.
Take what you can get. You know, I'll divide the difference between you guys.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to get you on here for a while now, and the distance is a little hard, but I wanted to have
know.
you guys like in the studio for
I know.
that extra quality.
Hell yeah. No, this is awesome. I feel like, because, yeah, we always, like, watch the podcast, or listen to the podcast, watch the live streams, and all of the cool things you do. So we're actually, like, here.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
funny,
pretty
because I feel like I already, like, know the entirety of, like, your office based on, like, just watching a lot of your content. So
It's like
cool.
finally touring the
Yeah.
Willy Wonka factory.
It's so cool.
Everyone lines up outside.
Except there's no chocolate, so you're going to
There's
have to
some
work.
chocolate,
Please
though.
work on that.
There, what are those little chocolate balls with the golden wrappers?
Yeah, we're going to need a lot.
Rocher or
They're-
whatever.
Yeah, we have those. I think no, unless Chris ate them all.
Yeah,
But-
I haven't
Yeah.
seen any.
We usually
so...
okay, maybe Chris ate
I
them.
think Chris said.
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe that's why he's not here. He knows. Like, once,
Get your-
once he gets out
Get
of
it
it's like,
together,
uh-oh.
guys. Come
Yeah.
on.
And unfortunately for the podcast viewers or listeners, you, Jen, are very animated. I think that's really cool. Like,
So sorry.
no, it's good. It's like me. I'm very, because I'm half Italian, and Italians, hey, bibbidi bobbidi, bibbidi bobbidi, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm doing lots of interpretive dancing while I speak.
We have talked about you dancing several times today.
I actually really would like to do a choreographed dance at one point.
Really?
I actually thought about, like, if, like, at the next FPV event, I think it would be really cool to actually, like, to put together a flash mob. Have you ever seen those? Like, people, like, actually spend, like, months practicing dance moves, and then they, like, go to a location, and the music starts, and, like, people just start dancing together.
I've never experienced this in person.
Okay, me neither, but I really want to, and I feel like in order to experience it in person, we just have to do it ourselves. So, like, IO, who's down?
Probably, maybe who's going? I'm not going, unfortunately.
I
But
don't think we are either.
so how are you going to do it at I.O.?
Well,
How are you going to say who's down and then you're not going?
I was hoping to
We
rally
wanna watch it.
the troops, so like the people, our listeners will listen and like get really like inspired by this conversation, and then like somebody will like know a choreographer.
What
and
if I could get people like to like commit to doing that? Would you like go
I would
if
go
there's
to IO.
if
yes.
there's a certain
if
amount?
there was a yes.
What would you need, like a minimum number of people that are like, I will learn this dance and they will execute it 100% guaranteed?
20. And I want, but only if like the leaders of the FPV community also participate. So that calls for, so I'm calling out Jesse, Raphael, Tony Cake. Who else is going to be there?
Any
Oh,
other
and then the
demands, Your
multi-GP
Highness?
people. Yeah,
All of the people.
all of the people. Oh yeah, I have lots of more demands.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, I'm high maintenance.
That sounds fair.
Yeah, it's fine.
So anyway, you guys want to talk about like, were you into RC at all before FPV?
Mm-mm.
No. Why don't you give you a little background of what like your education stuff is? Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of relevant to your job. Well, a lot of people think so.
Not really.
Do you think it helps with
No,
your business?
yeah, kind of. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's.
I mean, I was into
Martin
RC.
should start first because I feel like
Yeah.
it's well, kind of. Well, okay, it goes back to like kind of where we met, right?
I heard you
Well,
guys have
because
PhDs.
before that, like I mean, if you want to hear the story from the start, like I was into RC
Chronological
like
order.
a long time ago. Like when I was a kid, I used to build like model RC planes, like old school, like electric ones, gliders, and fly them line of sight like that. And then
Did you build them?
yeah, it was like all balls of wood and
Dang.
the iron and stuff, putting the like it was a lot of time build a plane and then you crash it once and it was basically destroyed. So that was fun, but I wasn't very good at flying them. Well, I guess the hard part was that crashing meant a lot of repairs, so you're kind of scared to crash. And
Sure.
you know,
How much were planes back then?
I don't remember. They were not cheap. Like basic setup was probably like $500. You could definitely get it cheaper now.
Oh yeah.
But then, like fast forward like 20 years, I came to the US for school, and I got one of these, or I was flying, I think, at a party with one of these toy helicopters.
It was at Christmas.
Christmas.
Your
like
stepbrother.
with these really small ones, and and then I was become interested because as a kid I always wanted a helicopter, but the RC helicopters were so expensive. So I basically was like, oh, now you can actually get RC helicopters for not that expensive, like
Right.
$1,000, with like Tyrannis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I started flying RC helicopters, and then from there, at some point, started flying quadcopters, and then.
Well, so at that point, like we were together.
Yeah, that was in Chicago where we met.
And so we were in grad school. And so I was studying neuroscience.
So you met in school.
Yeah, we met in Chicago in grad school.
Was it in a class together, or
No.
tell me? I want to know.
So tell us. Okay, so I had this really obnoxious Greek dude who lived upstairs from me.
Zorro?
Yeah, it's
Similar.
Malaka.
Just kidding,
It's
Zorro.
very
I love
similar.
you.
We love you. I really want to hang out with Zorro one day.
He's so fun.
He's
I love
so
him.
cool.
He's my best friend in
It's
FPV.
like so cool. Anyway, so we so obnoxious Greek dude who lived upstairs, and he was really into techno music, and he had like the whole DJ set up, and all the time, all night, it would be like like, and the bass would be like boom, 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 and and I just remember being like looking up at my ceiling, being like, why? Anyways, there was one point where my sister and I, my sister was an undergrad when I was there at Northwestern, and we decided one day we wanted to go to Greece. I don't know why. And so we're like,
to
we
get back
should.
at his family or something?
Well, so my last name is a Greek last name,
Oh, okay.
Minas and Minas, and so we were like, oh, we should just go to Greece and try to like track down our origin. And
I
don't
thought it was
know.
like, let's track down this Greek dude's family that's wrecking
Yeah,
our life.
actually, that would have been smarter, but we're not that smart. So we were just being selfish and stupid. And
You
so,
weren't BrainFPV back then,
No,
though.
no.
Okay.
No.
So
Oh, no, yeah.
you've evolved since
Oh,
then.
yeah. I was a shit show. Oh, shit. Damn it. Anyways, so we went upstairs to ask our Greek neighbor, for him to tell us about Greece. And
Sure.
he invited us in, and he said, oh, like later tonight we're having a party. You guys should come by. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so we went by, and there was a bunch of people there, and he introduced everybody, and there was this really, really hot guy in the corner. And
Martin's shaking his head no, but I know he wants to say, oh yeah.
and it was Martin, and I chased you for 6 months or so after that.
Who initiated the first contact?
Me.
See, that's something special, because
And-
usually it's the guy that initiates
And it was
it.
on Facebook. There's like a Facebook message.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, why don't I have your phone number?
Oh wait, you didn't talk in person first?
No, we did.
No,
we
okay.
we hung out, but like it was always with a group of people.
Yeah.
You know, and he was actually chasing another girl at the time.
It's a long time ago.
I'm still jealous of her.
Well, I don't think you need to be anymore.
Serious issues.
Do you want to talk about it? Just kidding.
Yeah, no. Martin's like, please stop. And so we met, and so it turns out my neighbor is a professor in Martin's lab,
Mhm.
and so yeah, we started dating, and at some point we also started collaborating on work because you did a lot of really cool like signal and image processing, and I used like MRI and EEG as tools to measure brain activity, and it's signals are very similar in image processing,
Aww.
and so it's all very similar, and so he was able to help me like visualize.
It was like it was
my
meant to
data.
be.
It's a pretty
Yes.
nauseating story. It's like,
Yeah, but that's kind of how it started. Well, that's how we got together, and we started kind of working together. But then at some point we graduated and moved to Boston for work, and I was still flying RC helicopters. And then actually in Boston I got into RC, like quads.
What
well,
was
you
your
made
first
the
quad?
FPV goggles in Chicago.
I actually built RC, like FPV goggles like 2 years before, but then I had to finish my PhD and just didn't have time to actually build an FPV
Priorities.
quad. So I put it on the shelf. But actually, if I had flown FPV when I built my first goggles, that would have been like 2010 or something.
Dang.
2009. Like it was like super early.
I didn't know about
there were
stuff
very
like that.
few people flying FPV.
I think I just like left the womb in 2010. Man. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, like there was back in the day, like everybody would always watch the Trappist videos and stuff. Like it was like when it started. Like I think it started a few years before, but it slowly became more popular. And then in Boston, I joined this like RC helicopter club, and a bunch of people started flying quads and FPV quads, and yeah, there was like the FPV lab. Like we had like a local thread, and at some point in I think actually when was that? I think 2013, 6 years ago. Actually, right about this time, 6 years ago, we had our first FPV meetup there, and
with like
yeah,
with like the North NEFPV guys.
Yeah, the NEFPV guys. Yeah.
And so these
not
are
fast
like
enough?
your like best
no,
friends.
Northeast FPV.
Oh.
So a lot of people I met like in the FPV community. It was kind
Hugo
of how
and
it started.
Merle and
And they're still
Josh
really active, like in the wing.
Alex
community.
Grieve, like
Alex Grieve was whatever. But, he lives too far away. Like he was
cut
part
that.
of.
Nope.
No. He wasn't part of
I love you,
the.
Alex.
He was part of the extended family because he lives more south. Like he wasn't in Boston.
Okay.
He was like Boston.
I always thought that he was like a part of your group.
Massachusetts,
Okay.
I have a question.
people.
Are you a fan of the show House?
I've
Do you know where I'm going with
watched
this?
it. No, I have no idea where you're going with this.
He does.
No.
Oh,
Where are you going with this?
I thought you were saying don't do it.
No, I know she's not a fan.
Oh.
I'm not a fan. I'm not anti-House. I just don't
No,
watch it. Like
but you're not a fan. That mean that's
Who's,
what I mean.
who's,
If you
who's
were
the
a fan,
main
you would
actor?
watch it.
What's his name?
Hugh Grant.
You kind of got that Hugh vibe going on right now.
Oh my God, you're hot. Oh my God. Oh,
What?
all right. Give us like 10 minutes.
Guys, we'll be right back.
Bow, bow.
I'll leave the studio room. Don't worry. The walls are padded. We won't hear anything.
Anywho, but that's kind of when it started. So then I actually built a quad. It was like back then, no one was flying mini quads, right? It was only like 450 was.
I'm just
then.
humping Martin's leg right now. Sorry.
Guys, I'm trying to quads. There was no small quads back then. It was only big quads.
No comment. Not you, her.
Yeah, it was like 450. Like there was no mini quads.
Yeah.
Like everybody was building the bigger like NASA and like stuff like that. So I built like a 450 size quad with FPV. It was my first quad with the CC3D, and pretty quickly became dissatisfied with like the OSD. Like there was like the character based OSD that we actually still use today, but that had
we're
to
still
be
rocking
connected
character-based
separately.
OSD.
Everybody does. So actually, so back then, like 2013, 14, I was like, I'm gonna build my own flight controller with graphical OSD.
But it wasn't just the OSD that you were frustrated with. It was like the quality, and it was like the lack of documentation. I just remember like.
But mostly it was.
This was back when we had a 400 square foot apartment, and so like your desk was in our bedroom, and so we had like a bookcase that was like separating the bed and like the makerspace area, like the office space.
Yeah.
And I just remember Martin like swearing and being like, God, this is so annoying, and like why is there no documentation? And I don't know, like the pin, like there's no information on this, and the quality is crap, and I can totally I'm just gonna make another one. I'm just gonna make one myself.
So how do you go from going to school for like completely unrelated FPV things? I'm like, you've never gone to like technical school for like circuit board design or anything,
I actually
right?
have.
Oh, you have?
So before, in the US, I was studying signal processing, electrical engineering. But before that, in Switzerland, I had done like an apprenticeship as a like kind of like an electronics technician. I was a physics laboratory technician at the National University. So you basically build. It's kind of a cool job, actually. You basically build equipment for physicists so they can do their experiments.
And you held this information from me, Martin.
So you basically build, you write codes, you build electronics, you build mechanical stuff, like you have shop training. It's like a really broad, it's kind of a cool job because it's very broad. And then I really like electronics. So
Wait, this was the competitive one, right? And
yeah.
Wait, tell them how you got the job.
That was actually a funny story because, to get into basically apply for this apprenticeship, they were taking 4 apprentices each year, and they had like, I don't know, a lot.
Do you have to be able to juggle?
No, but so they had an entrance exam.
That's grad
and
school.
and then after the entrance exam, they did like invited a few, like 10 or so people to the students, to the applicants, to an interview. And one question they asked if I have any hobbies, and I told them about that I fly RC planes. And actually, I learned later that was one of the main criteria, like because they had like a lot of previous students who had built RC planes in there as a hobby as a kids, and they just found that these kids had really good technical skills just because they were interested and they already had some knowledge that they brought. Like at that point I was like 16 years old, and it's kind of interesting that actually helped me to get this job. And then I from there went to university in Switzerland and then came to US, and now I do 20 years later, or not 20 years, I'm not that old, but actually more than 20 years. Anyways,
He's
20 years
21.
later, I basically do make stuff for RC planes. So it's kind of a funny circle back. But so then I was basically designing a flight controller with OSD in our bedroom
In 2013.
in 2013. And then friends of mine wanted it. And so we started making small batches of them in the US, super expensive.
All right, calm down, Heisenberg.
Yeah.
And then we selling them.
Yeah, for
And at some point-
$129.
At some point, and actually, when I was legally allowed to have a company, I founded a company
Yeah.
because I had a green card.
But you were still working.
Yeah,
You're
it was
still
still very. It
working
was like a
full-time.
side job, and then at some point, I got an opportunity to consult for another company to do drone
Drone
stuff,
company.
and at that point, I quit my job and did 50-50, and since then, at some point, a year later, Jenny did the same basically, and now we just run BrainFPV.
Well, that's quite a good and advanced way to get into FPV. Me, it was like, hey, that looks fun.
Well, that is how I got into it, because he was super into it, and I just saw how much passion he had for it. And I mean, we've all had dreams of flying, right? Those are my favorite dreams.
That's true.
Those are my favorite dreams, and it's not often that I have them, but I remember them. I don't remember my dreams, a lot of them sometimes, and so
I remember my flying dream.
I remember my flying dreams.
Can you tell it to us quickly? One of them?
No. I mean, it's not a sex dream, James. Just kidding.
Wow.
No. No. I mean, I don't actually It's a little bit it's morbid. It's not a positive flying dream, but I do remember. No, there's.
I have positive ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the
You're just
sensation of flying, right?
in the sky, and you're flying, and I don't know.
Okay, well, you've let me down,
Okay.
so let me
Wow,
tell
that
mine.
was really bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cut
mine,
that.
it was in the driveway at our house, and me and my dad were outside, and on the edge of the driveway, we lived on a few acres, so the hill went down pretty steep, and someone else was there. I don't know who they were, but they were just yeah, you guys can fly, and I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, and I was like, okay, it just made sense, and literally put my arms out like a bird. I didn't flap, but I just levitated up and started whee, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then my dad came and flew with me, and we landed, and I woke up, and I was like,
That was awesome.
Then you ran outside and tried for it.
And then you fell on your face.
No, I never had a bad
He has a huge
experience.
scar, right? No, just kidding.
Yeah, no, my dreams were similar. Yeah, I don't think they were negative.
Yeah, you know that thing behind my ear you're asking? It's from I fell when I was flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had a dream that I was flying and then I fell and over
how
a bridge and I over a bridge and I landed on a pole and
Dude, it's super brutal.
I actually have really morbid dreams sometimes.
Is that why you're afraid of heights and bridges and stuff?
I'm scared of heights. And my feet do get sweaty when I watch FPV videos.
Interesting.
But yeah, so anyways, so I watching videos and seeing Martin's passion, and for me, I think it was when I saw Gabriel get Gab 707's video of flying in Switzerland that I felt I mean, at that point I had already kind of started helping you out, but I really didn't understand a lot of it until I saw that video, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much potential here. And on the other side of it, because I come from a developmental cognitive neuroscience background, I am really interested in education and STEM, and so I just saw the opportunity. I mean, I'm always looking at ways to, why kids some kids are smarter than others, and what makes kids smarter and better at learning, and how can we use certain training tools and education to kind of help kids succeed.
Have you ever wanted to
in
be a
life.
teacher?
No.
You sound like you have the passion to teach.
I get really nervous when I don't like to
With kids?
I'm nervous now, and my hands
What are
are
they going to
sweating.
do?
No, I prefer to be behind the scenes, sit in the corner. I want to make the curriculum. I like to be behind the scenes, and
I like teaching,
I like to do. Yeah, you like teaching.
but I don't know. It's a lot of work, and
It is.
there's just not enough pay for it, right? Like I think teaching is super important, but
In the U.S.
yeah. But as in, I don't think I could be a teacher and teach like the same class over and over again.
If you had to be teachers, what would you teach?
Statistics, math. No, no,
And this is college level stuff?
no. No, I want to teach
Preschool?
kids like
Nap time?
That
Time.
she'd be good at that.
food, cookies, ice cream.
That's all kindergarten.
Ice
You could be the
cream.
best kindergarten teacher.
No, I think like electronics and stuff would be fun to
Get
teach.
some of those big
Like-
cartridges of
Printer ink?
the
Sell it on the black market?
from the ice cream that we had yesterday. What was it like?
Oh, liquid nitrogen.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna need
That's
that in
like-
the classroom. Is that safe? Is that a thing?
It depends what age group it's with.
It's fine. Preschool.
Yeah, the stuff is fun.
Kids are like, yay, water. You know, if you there's that, I forget what the theory or whatever it is, but if you put your hand in quick enough, there's like an air pocket that surrounds your skin, and you won't like.
Yeah, we used to do that.
Yeah. It's like some kind of like science thing.
And then if you freeze
Why
your
is that?
cereal, you can eat it, and smoke will come out of your nose.
It's not smoke though.
Yeah.
It's not. You guys should.
I expect more from you, Jenny.
For proof, visit the NewBeeDrone
Instagram.
Instagram
Yeah.
stories.
If it's on, I don't know if it's still on because
Do they save them after 24 hours?
no.
No.
Let me see if it's still on.
Sucks to be you guys.
Nope, they're not. They're gone. If you didn't see it,
Sucks to suck, suckers. Sorry. Anywho, so yeah, I just saw like so much potential in the educational aspect of everything, and I just felt like there really needs to be more educational outreach, and we can integrate a lot of the drone things. I mean, just like even plugging drones in, can increase motor skills. And I actually made a little comic book, a manual on how to build the NewBeeDrone,
What?
BeeBrain, or with the bee. And so when I was testing the BeeBrain Lite or the new flight controller, I
the one that
actually
had the
was
cap
able
on it.
to build. Yes,
That's the light. Yeah.
I was able to build the drone based on the little comic book that I made for the kids, like that.
Why don't I know about this?
I thought I sent it to you.
Do you
I
have it
told
here?
you about it.
You're reaching like you have something.
I
you
don't
should
know. It's
have.
in my computer and it's in the hotel room. Sorry.
That was a good manual, though.
That was awesome.
How is this like? You need to send us this. We'll share
I know.
this.
Well, I feel
Yeah, you
like
should.
adults need it too, because
Yeah.
adults don't
So
follow
again, why
directions.
did you not share this with me?
We have on in every single flight controller that we send out, like we have a little card that says, "Read the
That
effing,
black little card
effing
with the
manual.
red letters.
Read the effing manual."
I love that.
It's really important, guys, even if you think you know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
anyways, just going back to the basics of, teaching kids basics, circuitry and physics and math and coding and science, and actually, like, using your hands, putting it together and flying can just, I think, really help develop.
I think
Just with brain development in general, like all.
well, with brain development, but I also think it can really spark. At least for me, like I was always interested in engineering, or not engineering, but like I always liked to build stuff as a kid, and it's really like I think RC and FPV is really a good way to get kids interested in these kind of things, and there's basically no limit of how much you can learn, right? You can basically go from building a simple like acrobat type of quad, and then start learning how to solder, like make your own bigger quad, and like learning how to code, and like there's basically no limit. And I don't know, like I think in the end, if you want to study something and be good at it, I think it's really good to have a motivation and kind of some interest. Otherwise, you're not gonna. I've seen a lot of students in school where they're studying electrical engineering at a good university, but they don't really have an interest. Like
Well,
they do it because their parents want them to study engineering, and
Well, and
That's not the way you get good
it's
at
hard
it.
to get like excited about something if you don't have something fun to apply it to, you know? So
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
one thing to learn an equation or learn a method or a theory, but to actually like apply all of the things that you've learned into like one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty freaking cool.
Nifty.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's awesome, and I want to share it with everyone. So that's why I
We
got
want you
into
to,
it.
too.
I just got really excited. Also, you know, being a woman, which, you know, there's not a lot of us. So I think, you know, that was another fun challenge of, you know, starting to, I'm not going to break it.
Oh, no, check this
putting
out.
it down, putting it
You
down.
know how we were talking about this on the last podcast I did with Zoe FPV, and we, for some reason, the Samsung bending phone came up. The Samsung Fold.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the one that they
The one
kind of
that-
like recalled.
They're
because
like,
the,
It
yeah,
actually broke.
yeah,
well,
but
Huawei made, oh no, it was Xiaomi.
there's like 3 companies that have a folding
yeah,
phone
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but Samsung had to like
Recall it.
yeah, all the pre-orders they like. Anyway, but we were talking about like, oh, like that'd be cool if you could like fold these, and I was like, well, you can like.
And then,
It doesn't break. I mean, like the flight control's gonna pop up, but I was like, oh, look, ours bends. What's the
Yeah.
problem? What? Samsung, give us a call if you need some help. You know, so.
things just popped off. Also, nobody saw it. Nobody.
Don't
There's no camera in here. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, but they can hear you saying that. That's the
What?
problem. Yeah. One thing I want to talk about real quick. I don't think a lot of people know, but you have a really good like graphical side to you. Like, is all the graphic stuff with BrainFPV done by you?
Mm.
Like that shirt design you right?
Yeah,
You guys can't see it, but it's like a really cool shirt design.
this is the
Part is actually by me.
well, it's the
Technically.
circuit. So I just took the circuit layout
Mhm.
of the Radix Lee. Which this
Yeah.
was a version,
Prototype.
a very very old prototype of the Radix Lee. So our 20x20 flight controller, and
Who made the logo?
it was one of your
Tom McCullough. So
I
it's
love
actually
your
the same. So it's one of my friends from the East Coast. Actually, he's like a graphics designer,
Yeah.
like professional. Like,
It's super cool. Like
good.
I'm so like I want to
well,
steal
the
it.
original logo was
The original
your
logo
brain.
was my brain.
Have you
actually.
seen that one?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, if you look on our Instagram.
Is that
it's
on your
here.
computer too?
No, you can actually see it if you go to our Instagram, BrainFPV.
We'll go
You
there
can
right
see
now.
like it's like a green logo, and it was based on an MRI. So back in Boston, we are doing a lot of neuroimaging
How
stuff.
far do I gotta dig?
Here, I'll-
Quite a bit back. We're doing a lot of neuroimaging, and for neuroimaging, like one of the, really important tools is MRI.
Mhm.
And basically, if you run an MRI, and we did some, like basically use the MRI as a basis to basically build a physics model of your head. Like if you want to do like signal processing for MEG, which is magnetoencephalography, you need to build what's called a boundary element model or a FEM model of your head, basically where you kind of take the head of a person and you make a physical model out of it, so you can assign different conductivities to different types of tissues and then use that to basically localize brain activity based on magnetic fields.
Oh yeah,
It's
I do
it's
that
a
all
lot
the
of
time.
physics. But to do that,
ask
you
me.
have to segment the head, and there's some very fancy, actually open source algorithms that people have developed that basically you
Free
put in an
software.
MRI image or an MRI scan, right, which is like a 3D.
So the bottom one is his logo, and the top one is
That's
the
your brain.
actual brain.
Yeah.
That's his.
How old
head.
are you when this?
Probably like 5 years ago.
I
Oh,
administered
so-
it.
ago.
I
Yeah,
administered
Jenny
it.
scanned my brain. But so basically, like an MRI
you
image
got,
is
you
basically
got an MRI
like,
machine?
I had several.
not
Aren't
her
those like
own.
millions of dollars?
They are,
They were at MIT and
Ah.
Harvard.
and
so-
Harvard, and Children's
Did you go to
Hospital.
MIT?
I was a researcher at MIT for like 5 years, 6 years.
That is dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a
So we always
researcher.
compete.
There's a
associate
lot of cool
there.
robotic stuff I like that came out of MIT.
Yeah, MIT is way cool.
But
Harvard's
let's
is
talk about the
a little
logo.
bit sad. Okay, cool.
No, so
What were you
basically for the with MRI, basically like an MRI is basically like a 3-dimensional image, right?
Sure,
It's
yeah.
like voxels, so you have like little space like pixels, and there's like automated algorithms
Voxels
that
are
can
3-dimensional pixels. Sorry,
Yes.
so it's X, Y, yeah.
yeah. So basically, there's algorithms that can generate a 3D surface, basically a 3D model out of the MRI image. So it finds the boundary of your brain.
Mhm.
Then you actually get like a surface, like a mesh, a 3D
Yeah.
mesh that you could use. You could 3D print your brain if you want, which is actually kind of cool.
Have you guys done that?
No, I actually still want to do that. I have to find that file somewhere on my computer. But so then I use that to generate a logo.
That's pretty crazy how
And that was our
how detailed an
original-
MRI can get of like all the different. What
Oh,
are
it's
the
super
things
detailed.
called? Brain
Sulci.
lobes?
Oh,
Lobes?
those are the sulci and the gyri, right? Like the.
I don't know, just like where it's like all the foldy. You
Mhm.
call those lobes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those are sulci.
Yeah, it's-
Sulci and gyri.
It's crazy how it can pick that up through your skull.
Oh, MRI is pretty. It's
Yeah.
pretty much.
I had hand surgery and they had to do an MRI right here for like reattaching my tendon. So like
Yeah.
I had to like for like 10 minutes in it like.
Yeah.
But like they showed me it and I was like, that's crazy.
It's so
Yeah.
cool.
And in the brain, you can see the structure, right? You can see the anatomy of your head,
Yeah.
but you can also see what the brain is, not what the brain is doing, but which areas in your brain are active.
So there's two
How
types
do you
of
do that?
there's two types of MRI, right? So there's the one that looks at the structure, like what Martin said, and so there's
It's got like
different
magnets
types.
from brushless motors, right?
Yes, it's kind of like a magnet, yeah. So except
Big-
it's superconducting. It's a
big
little bit
motor.
It's
bigger.
a very
It has a
strong
little bit,
magnet,
yeah, a larger bore.
It's like an X-class.
Yeah,
motor.
the coils are a little bit, yeah, but it's a similar. I mean, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so you can look at different tissue types. So there's the white matter, that's the structural part. So that's what you saw there.
Mhm.
But then there's this really, you can also measure like the water molecules in the structure. So basically, if you think about like the brain as like they're like roads that the neurons have to take to
Yeah,
get
the
from
paths.
point A to point B. Yeah, exactly. And there's bridges, but sometimes like the bridges will fall down because of an
Collapse.
earthquake, and so like the neurons have to find another path to get there. And so you can see the direction in which like the neurons are
Because it's
traveling
electrical pulses,
to
right?
get from one place to
Well,
another.
that's
basically.
you're talking about tractography,
Yes.
which is still structural.
Yes, sorry, we're still talking about the structure, like the anatomical parts of the brain, the structural
Right, yeah.
part of the brain.
Mhm.
But there are different ways to look at it. So there's, the basic, you can just look at your brain, but then there's also ways to look at that structure. And you can get these really, really beautiful psychedelic pictures if you look, I'll show you later.
Mhm.
If you guys Google DTI, diffusion tractography, or diffusion tract
diffusion
imaging,
tensor imaging.
or diffusion tensor imaging.
So can you actually
It's
see like
beautiful.
the little electrical pulses moving in
No,
your
so
neuron?
this is structural. So what you see is you can basically
Measures the-
in your brain for the long
the water.
for the connections that are long, like
Yeah.
between one part of your head to another.
Stealing my thunder, man.
There are like these bundles of nerve fibers that
Yeah.
go through your head, and you can basically image those
So you can see the
It's like
fiber
a roadmap
tracks.
of all of it.
of your
Yeah.
highways, basically.
Exactly, and the direction in which like the water molecules, like so you're measuring the water molecules. And,
So because
like, the
you
direction that
can
they,
you can track the water moving,
And
that's how
so-
you can track the
and so each
path?
yeah,
Basically, it's the direction the water is.
it's the
oriented.
direction. So
It's
so each color is a different direction. So there's a million different colors, and it's like psychedelic and beautiful. And so I'm like I've always been inspired by that.
But this is
Yeah.
really small amounts of water, right?
yeah. Well, it happens because like, you have these fibers that are basically very small. Like the water is very constrained in these fibers,
Yeah.
which kind of means it's aligning in a certain way. It's kind of weird. But the other interesting thing is the functional part.
Yeah,
That's
so
what Jenny actually
that's what I
studied.
studied. Sorry.
This is crazy stuff. I would
yeah.
love to like
so,
learn about brains now.
Oh yeah, brains are awesome. So the functional stuff is cool. So MRI can also tell me what part of the brain you're using when you're doing certain things, and so people can conduct different types of experiments, like just resting. So what happens in the brain while we're all resting, and so there's some really interesting patterns that we see in every single human who is just resting. So when you're just not thinking about anything in specific, you're not doing an actual task, but you're just like, oh, like I have shit to do later today, and I want to really, like, I love those shoes that I saw on that lady, and like,
Mhm.
oh, like I have to clean my room, all of these things. We all have very similar patterns, which is like something, I don't know, that we're still trying to understand, but I think that it can lead, answer a lot of questions about like the subconscious and like the, we don't really know. Right. Anyways, so I was interested in conducting experiments that told me what part of the brain were lighting up when, for example, when people were reading or listening to language or different languages. And so if you have a specific question, you can design an experiment with the timing, and everybody basically lays down in this bed in the MRI and plays a computer game. And so I give them controls. Some of them are joysticks. Some
I
of
can
them,
do that.
yeah, and you play these games, and depends on what you're interested in studying, working memory stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It could be visual stuff, auditory stuff, all sorts of things that you can, depending on what you're studying. And then after, so it's very similar to drone data. So after you collect your data, you come back and you have to pre-process it.
Do you mean like black box data?
So it's a XYZ, roll, pitch, yaw. So
Yeah.
we have 6 dimensions of signal data, and we have to do a lot more math and transformations and filters, but we use a lot of the same algorithms as far as smoothing and filtering and transforming these signals into a 3D space, right? Because they're just signals. And
well, you basically get a signal for each. You basically get a time series for each place in the brain, right? You get like, if you think about video, it's basically kind of a value. It's like images in a sequence, right? So you get a different value at each pixel for a different image in a video, but in an MRI image, it's basically a video of volumes. So you get like a lot of data. Like it's a lot of data.
It's a lot of data.
Let me ask you this. When you're recording people doing stuff, like you said, playing the computer game in the MRI machine, or for example, does everyone, like, if you have 5 different people playing the same computer game, is it going to be the same exact part of the brain is active, or is it different for different brains?
Well, that's what we're interested in figuring out. And so it depends on like what your question is. But so for a long time I was studying dyslexia, and so that's like a reading disability. And so like, when people read words, like, are they using different parts of their brains? And so yes, so people with and without dyslexia or like reading disabilities, they do use different parts of their brains, but there is a lot of variability between humans as well. So even just the normal controls, there's still a lot of variability, but in general, so we have to collect a lot of data, and so then we average, we average it all together. We run a lot of math, a lot of statistics, and so for us to understand like the basic patterns. And
do you think in general though, like, because I know you're saying like dyslexic people versus non-dyslexic people, they will use like different parts, but like if I'm a pro gamer and there's another guy I'm playing, we're both pro gamers, is it generally like the same parts of the brain? Because I know like for like motor function, it's like
it's generally similar.
It's somewhat similar, but again, I mean, every person's different. So like you're one gamer, like you may be playing against somebody who is a car expert, for example. And so then that person isn't straining their brain as much when they're looking at, let's say like it's a car game and there's other cars or something, or like you may get like more or less activity, but in generally like location wise, we're all using pretty much the same parts of our brain for some of the same things. So there are specific regions of the brain that like are active when we're looking at each other. So like when we recognize faces, so there's the fusiform face area. So that's one location that is for faces or houses or cars or like specific things, right?
Basically the lower level the processing is, right? Like you can actually really map really well, like for example, which finger or which toe maps to a specific region in your brain. When you tap the finger, you can exactly, before like which, but then if you if you have visual information, you can see, in which part of the brain visual representation, visual stuff gets decoded. But the more higher you go in terms of processing, like language processing or like emotions and stuff, it's much harder to study that, and there's probably also more variability between people.
When we're running studies, because when we're doing exploratory studies, we always have to start with like the basic experiments just to make sure that we're actually seeing the right parts of the brain. So like you said, so if not everybody is activating their visual cortex when we're doing a visual study, if there's any visual stimuli and we're not seeing that in every single person, then we know that there's something wrong. So I did something wrong in my experiment. I'm not measuring the right time. I'm not doing something didn't work. And so then we'd have to go back to the drawing board. So there are some specific, like I do expect to see some of the same basic regions, but then it depends on your question and what you're interested in studying.
Sure, there's probably just a crazy amount of variables too.
Oh yeah, well, and everybody's different, but we depend on that. So if everybody was the same, then there would be no neuroscience. Then.
Well, let me ask you this: have you heard about the Google Brain chip?
No, actually.
Here, check this out. Like this was just announced a few days ago.
So, I do know I know that there are people working on things like this. So like to implant in your brain.
I want to see it before I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly it's like, they implant the chip and it's supposed to be like a high bandwidth output for like getting information out of your brain. It's not, I don't think it's supposed to make you super smart, but it just gives you like, because even like Elon Musk has said that the biggest bottleneck right now for like humans and technology is like we have these really inefficient 10 little fingers to type up and touch a little screen, and it's really slow versus how a computer can access data.
Yeah.
And that's exactly like what he wants to do, like bridge that bandwidth problem.
Right.
So
I think we
I
probably
would
get
love
there
that.
at some point, but I don't know, we'll see.
yeah, and can you imagine how expensive that would be, or like even the risk,
Oh, I mean that
I
we're
wouldn't want to take revision 0 of that.
right?
It's like an FPV product. Usually,
It's
better
Whoa.
not always. Not for our company.
Thank you. I was about Joshua Bardwell is just like, yeah, see, Martin? So Martin agrees with me. See? Joshua Bardwell, you are wrong. Anyways, so...
Shots fired.
Yeah. He doesn't listen to this, I'm sure. Anyways, I don't know, maybe.
He's probably too busy.
If
He
there's
should.
something that I'm involved in, he will not listen to it. So, cool. Anyways, moving on. We, so the Google... I think that there are a lot of issues with, like talking about, like, the philosophical conversations and the moral conversations about putting a chip in somebody's brain that will control or collect any data, but can control their motor functions, for example. So there are... Okay, that's awful. Wow, you're evil.
That's a Google.
I put chips in my head every day.
They want you to show like ads. When
I
you're
was in a
eating
meeting at MIT a long time ago, and they were like, we were talking about like kind of the future tech, like within the next like 25 years, kind of like the crazy stuff that we should be looking at or investing in, and that did come up where there are chips that you can implant that like could, if somebody was crossing the street and a car came, if the chip could stop the person, from getting hit by the car and like jump them back, or
It's like wearing a shock bracelet.
Yeah, and there, I think that it's definitely a topic of discussion, but the fact is we don't know anything about the brain.
I'd be so worried about hacking.
If you go to MIT right now, like the top researchers or Harvard or UPenn or University of Toronto, whatever, the top researchers will tell you that we don't know anything. The technology we have. So while MRI is a really great tool, it shows us blobs. There's blobs. It doesn't show me exactly where this blood flow, what's happening exactly.
I mean, it's a pretty fancy blob, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we know way more than, I mean, you have to quantify that or qualify that, right? Like we know way more about the brain than we did 20 years ago, but like the more you know, the more you understand that you don't know.
Exactly.
Like,
so
So
when people talk about AI, machine learning, and the robots who are going to take over the world, it's like, okay, we're so far away from that.
You said the more you know, the more you don't know.
Well, the more you know about the topic in general, right? Like
The more you know how much
you
there is
realize
to learn.
that
So
you do know.
Yeah,
there's
like
so much to explore.
Like imagine people back in like the Christopher Columbus days where everyone thought the world was flat, and then like the sky, it's like just they didn't know it was space with like other planets.
Exactly.
And then once we had telescopes, we could see other planets. Okay, now we can see like other galaxies. Now we can see like black holes. Now we can see like exploded
is
stars.
flat. No, just kidding. I couldn't even keep it. He's
pointing
like
to the door.
Get
he's
out.
pointing to the door.
Get out right now. I expect better from you.
I was just joking, huh?
But yeah, so it's like the more we know, the more telescopes we make, like there's more stuff we can find.
Yeah, and it's the
infinite.
same
much
with
to
everything.
explore.
The more you learn about the topic, the more you appreciate how complex it is and how many other things there are that you can learn about it. Usually people who think they know everything, that's like I mean we have been both Jenny and I at we have worked at Harvard and MIT, and there you find very few people or no people at these places who think they know everything.
It's actually the opposite. Whereas like I think the probability you'll run into somebody with like a serious imposter syndrome at one of these universities, or like some of the smartest people, Nobel laureates, have crazy imposter syndrome where they just don't feel like they know anything, and they're total frauds, and they're like when somebody's going to find them out, and it's hilarious because then we come into this hobby and there's people who actually have a brand called Know It All. God, shots fired today. Listen to me. This is fun.
Do you guys know anyone from Boston Dynamics?
No, not
That would
personally.
be
No,
cool.
that would be awesome. Oh my
I know.
god, I love.
Can you get him on the show?
We should. We should. That was definitely one place I didn't go to. I had a lot of military type of contacts and got to see a lot of really cool things in Boston, but not Boston Dynamics. We never went there.
Well, let's talk. You know, it's fun
Sorry.
talking about the brain stuff.
Wow.
No, I
Like
like.
an hour later.
No, it's fine.
People are like, "Wait, this is boring."
We got about 15 minutes left, so you guys are doing great. I told you to go really fast.
Okay.
But, you know, I wanted to touch about, like, specialty stuff with you, and I think with the brain and the school, like, we got that. But I want to kind of circle back to, like,
The graphics.
BrainFPV company itself. Like, you guys are known for making flight controllers, really high-end, really fancy flight controllers. And for those of listeners who don't know, like, can you kind of give a basic, like, why yours is different? What's, like, the specialty about yours?
So basically, we have two flight controllers at the moment, the Radix and the smaller version, the Radix Lee. And they both, what makes them most unique is they have a graphical on-screen display. So all the flight controllers basically, except ours, they have this character-based OSD. And actually, like half an hour ago in this podcast, I referred to that. Basically, there's this chip that can display characters on top of the video, and you can make an OSD with it. And this chip has been around probably for like 40 years. And basically, our OSD works a bit differently. Basically, we have a graphical OSD. That means like the OSD is drawn in a memory, and then we can do whatever we want.
Like pixel by pixel?
Pixel by pixel, exactly. We can show characters, of course, but we can also show lines and stuff like that.
Your characters probably look fancy, though. Like, nice quality.
Actually, like, we have a lot of the same. We have used by default the same font. It's like a hybrid of the Betaflight OSD and our graphical OSD. It's like it has all the stuff from the Betaflight OSD, but then we add stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all the stuff from Betaflight, but then we have a nicer like map. So if you fly long range, you get like a really nice indication of where you are relative to yourself.
Yeah.
You get like, we have this spectrograph that's pretty neat, so you can actually see, instead of using black box, you can fly and see the frequencies of your gyroscope.
A lot of people talk about
like
that.
in life, and that's pretty cool to use. And then another thing is we have the stick display, so you can see your transmitter sticks where they are in real time.
Yeah.
Betaflight now has that too, but it looks really bad in Betaflight.
Well, I mean, again, you know, we're using pixels and they're using characters, so it's
so it's just like everything is
it's
a bit
limited.
nicer.
Yours
So
is
we
very
have to-
smooth, too.
Yeah.
Like, the motion is like, it's like high frame rate versus, like,
Yeah, it
8-bit.
updates at like 25 or 30 hertz, depending on if you use NTSC or PAL. And then what else do we have? So
you can make your own logos.
yeah, then you can have graphical logos. So you can actually go to our website and make an account, and then you can upload PNG images, like one for like the boot logo and the logo in your arm, and another one for a pilot logo. So you have a little logo.
I didn't know
that
you
you
could do
can
the pilot.
position.
That is
Yeah.
rad.
Yeah, I should make you a
So instead of
big
just
one.
writing your pilot name, you can actually have a little graffiti.
That's
style
super
thing.
dope.
So then when you're racing, you know,
Yeah.
and the race screens are up, people
Yeah.
can know
Yeah.
like it's you
Yeah.
and with your actual logo.
That is super
instead of-
rad.
So it's super
Um,
easy. You can just go to our website, upload the images, they get saved on our website, and then you can basically download the hex file. It's the Betaflight hex file, but our images or the images that you uploaded already in the hex file.
So does when people upload it, does it automatically like convert it?
Yes.
It converts it when you download the
Yeah,
hex
yeah,
file
okay.
on the fly, basically. So you always have the latest versions of
Right.
Betaflight.
I don't know if like it was like upload it and then we manually.
No.
No.
It's there. That's it. You upload the.
Did you have to make
image.
that system?
Yeah.
That's
did
pretty
that.
rad. That probably was not easy.
It was
Okay, for
It was
like
fun.
for
It's all
non-PhD
relative.
people, that was probably not easy.
It's all
There's
relative.
some scripting.
Not
Yeah,
all of us went to MIT. Okay.
That's a pretty cool
No,
feature.
neither
What
did
else do we
Martin.
have? So then, I mean, it's a
Shots fired.
He just rolled his eyes
No, he's
so
just
big.
Harvard. Sorry.
It's like rolling them over the moon.
I'm sorry.
Only Harvard.
Harvard is less than. Sorry. Keep going.
anywho.
OSD.
If I had known
Uh,
it was only Harvard before this started. I'm kidding.
You
Go
would
ahead.
not have invited us.
Yes.
Anyways, I think
Lame.
Harvard. But Harvard, Schmarvard.
Anyways, so the graphical OSD.
So that's a good feature, but
the
then
Bosch gyro.
we have a different gyro that is very good in terms of like, it's very smooth.
It's a household name. Everyone knows Bosch.
And that's used in like a lot of like industrial
Yeah.
uses, right?
I mean, Bosch, like historically, I guess they made like they make a lot of car parts.
Right, yeah,
like
yeah.
Bosch is one of the biggest suppliers. Like
Big OEM.
they don't make cars, but they make a lot of parts that go into cars. And and it's actually kind of interesting. I mean, like if you think about this is a very long side conversation, but like the chips that we use on the drones, right? Like the sensors, like the gyroscope and the accelerometers. The accelerometers first became cheap because they were used in cars for airbags.
Oh.
And Bosch was one of the companies making these chips.
Huh.
And then a few years later, people started having cell phones, and we have fancier sensors with gyroscopes, and these are basically the sensors we use now. So Bosch has kind of went from accelerometers to gyroscopes that are now used in phones and cars and everything. So we have the Bosch gyro that's very good and smooth. It's very good in handling vibrations and stuff. Doesn't need too much filtering. And overall, it's very reliable. We spend a lot of resources into QC. Like we test and flash every board in the United States.
Every single board. It's not like we have to. Like we, like personally, like and we put them in the baggies, and I put like the little.
What's the procedure for testing it?
We have like an automated test system.
Oh, is it like a thing where you put it in and push it down?
Yeah, there's like we put it in, there's 100 needles, test
yeah.
points, and then it just runs.
That's the legit way to do it.
Flashes the
See, I'm here thinking you're like temporarily like touching the XT60 power leads or something.
We used to do that. Like at first flight control, I didn't have a tester, and it was a mess.
Yeah, it's difficult to make like a testing rig. It's not easy.
No, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, the testing rig actually is
it's
more finicky than the actual flight controller.
Yeah,
so.
like I bring this up because literally I know people who just don't know about this aspect of the industry and like manufacturing. They'll think like, oh, they're just touching like the power to the board and like shaking it or something. But they don't know you go into the trouble of engineering a rig.
No,
and,
we measure like gyro data and everything, like to kind of just do also statistics on it and see.
Yeah, because of other companies, I'm not going to say any names. Other companies saying they are testing each unit in the factory. I think it's good to bring up when companies are actually doing it legitly.
Right. Yeah, no, we...
So that we have the 30 by 30, it's the radix, and then the radix lead is basically the same. We don't have the SD card and we don't have the barometer.
And it's small.
And it's a 20 by 20.
So yeah,
I mean, it has a 5-volt regulator.
Our boards are, extremely reliable. Like I think, we have some power retailers who have just maybe have 1 or 2 support tickets out of, and they've been selling this flight controller for over a year and a half.
Yeah.
And, it's really, it's known, we're not hypey, we're a small company, we make small batches, but it's, it speaks for itself, like people really,
the quality of the components are like, I know because, I know because we make thousands and thousands of boards for our stuff, but I know just from working on development and stuff and looking at like other products, not saying any names, but you can kind of tell the quality because when the the SMT factory that like lays all the chips on there, on some of the lower cost, not saying any names.
See it.
Yeah, like they're like crooked or something, and then like the soldering's like not super nice.
That drives me insane.
And then like stuff like yours is like it looks like it was like manufactured in a laboratory with like air sealed and no dust kind of thing.
It's a work of art. It is beautiful.
Our manufacturer is really good.
Our board is well, and it's beautifully like thought out and laid out. You know, so
even the quality of like the color of the PCB board is like very nice. It's like
we put a lot of time and thought into like the very small, tiny details because you are a pilot, and we also listen. We're very close to like the BrainFPV user group and our community. We listen to everybody, and I hate getting just positive feedback because it's boring. And how can we actually?
I'll give you some.
How can we like? No, seriously though, like okay.
It's expensive, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's expensive, but
in the end, it's like not such a big. I feel like.
We're not making a lot of money. It's not like we're
for the technology it is. It's really not that expensive. Like in the big scheme of things, like the fact that this flat PCB with are you allowed to say how many layers the PCB is?
It's 6 layers.
Okay, yeah, for like having all those layers and the quality of the components, $50. Like
right, we're giving it away. Yeah. Like the margins are so low. Like we're not. It's not like we're like rolling in dough or anything.
Yeah,
but
like
it is. It's a very high end.
Yeah, like Martin said, like. I also got into RC stuff. My first RC stuff wasn't even cars. It was RC helicopters, and it was back when they were gas.
Oh, yeah.
My first one was like by a company called Thunder Tiger, and it was like the Raptor 50.
Yeah.
I know that. And but back then, it was all there's no like digital flight controller systems. They had the Futaba receiver where you manually plug every servo in, and then they had just come out with digital gyros, and it was a big fat box that sat on the back, and it had like the twisty knobs where you adjust like the gain and sensitivity and stuff.
Yeah.
But just the gyro itself was $150, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And now we've got a flight controller that has an MCU and a graphical thing and a gyro and all this stuff for
3 chairs.
Yeah, for 1/3 the cost. And people are like, it's overpriced. Like, you have no idea like how
Yeah.
It definitely has come down.
affordable. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
technology has become cheaper too. But
Yeah, like to set up that helicopter was like $1,500
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah.
In a
Yeah.
crash, that's what I
Yeah.
got out of it. Each crash was like $400 to $800 in parts. I was like,
Yeah. I only flew like 450 size helis, but even there, like a crash is
yeah,
$50 plus 2 hours of work.
yeah,
It's too
It's so
much.
funny. Yeah, so I think in general, that's pretty much it. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so we just try to make really good there's this like, we only try to have a few products, but the products we have are really good.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't try to overextend and like make
like-
everything.
I think
under
it's a
the sun.
trap, where people are like, "Oh, well, I wish you had a 4-in-1 or like a ESC, and I wish you had this," and we're like, "Okay, but like, you don't like want." I don't know. You don't want us making frames. You don't want us making motors because that's not what we specialize in. We specialize in flight controllers, and we're really good at it. And like, I just feel
Yeah.
like whatever we put out is
I
pretty
think
damn amazing, pretty well tested, like extremely well tested.
Yeah.
Like, it is significantly different. It's better.
Yeah, I think it's just because like a 401 ESC is like a flat little PCB square, so it's something that directly communicates with FC. So they're like, oh, I want the BrainFPV
course.
equivalent.
Yeah.
Oh, and I totally understand. I mean, it's like
If you
the
had more
Apple
resources, it
ecosystem.
would be
Yeah, if we
different.
had all the money in the world, but we don't. It's
You don't? Oh,
Not yet.
unfortunately not yet.
there we go.
One day.
That's
Good
what I like to hear.
attitude. Good attitude.
Hey, Apple Computers started in a garage.
There you go. Bedroom.
You guys started in a basement.
What's up now?
And bedroom. Yeah.
Bedroom.
Ooh.
Even worse.
Hey,
Soldering iron in the bedroom.
it's not about where you came from; it's where you're going.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah. Well, we're almost pretty much up. We've got like 3 minutes to go. Is there any like last minute things you want to plug, or like your social media, your website, or upcoming products? I know you guys just did like a collab thing with TBS on your goggle
the
module,
Fusion.
the Fusion.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be good, I think.
Yeah, Martin wrote the algorithm for like the Fusion for the
It's a lot of coding.
goggle module. In collaboration with TBS. We have can I say like the GPS and the he's saying no, but there's a GPS and a mini power board for wings. Anyways,
I don't know if anyone heard that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh no.
yeah, but you guys should check out our user group. It's really fun. There's lots of fun things and inside jokes about pineapple and pizza and discussions about physics and, all sorts of stuff. And and I don't know. I'm really bad at plug. Like, this is self-promotion.
It's okay.
I hate self-promotion.
BrainFPV.com,
awesome. Yay.
BrainFPV on Instagram. You
Yeah.
don't really do YouTube stuff right now,
No,
right?
we don't do
No.
YouTube
Okay.
at this point.
Do you even have a YouTube account?
I think we do actually.
Yeah,
Let me guess. BrainFPV.
it's possible.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
We do
possible.
have one, I'm pretty sure.
And like, I know some people don't know, but you do wing stuff, the electronics, like you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wings. So if any of you guys are into wings also,
Yeah.
BrainFPV.
Yeah, we try to. Our stuff goes in,
It
X
runs
class.
INAV and Betaflight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys are, I don't have any wings. I'm interested in them, but through the FPV, like the quadcopter FPV community, I think your board comes up the most whenever it's talked about. Aside from like TBS, like whatever TBS
Yeah.
uses. I think they have their own boards for that or something maybe.
Yeah, they have some stuff.
For like the capoeira or whatever the wing.
Caprine, yeah.
Yeah. The thing I want that's too
we
big.
actually made the power board because Trappy wanted. No, we're not going there. So, anyways, we have a lot of things. I mean, yeah, our board goes in. So let's see, X class, so micro quads, mini quads, and wings.
Yeah.
So it's for everyone. It's for you,
It's for everyone.
It's for
It's for you.
for me,
For
and you,
Brainiacs.
for everyone,
For Brainiacs.
or not. You don't. It's yeah, fine.
I think you would want to say yes for everyone.
No, it's everywhere.
Yeah, cool. All right, guys. Well, big thank you for coming on the show. I know you guys came a long way
Thank you
just
for
to do the
having
podcast
us.
with
Yeah.
me.
It was awesome.
Yeah, like
It's
they
worth
literally
it.
came and flew down here just to talk to me for an hour.
I
You guys.
highly
yeah,
recommend
it's worth it.
for any of your other guests to come down, especially because of the ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
man.
I mean, thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. It was a
really
pleasure.
We love you guys.
I feel a little bit dumber now, but I'm also really interested in learning about the human brain now. Ironically,
Cool.
yeah.
Let's do it.
So cool.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to a NewBeeCast. I'm your host Goose, and in the studio we had BrainFPV. Thank you guys again for coming in, and we will see you next week. Bye bye.